Hello everyone, my name is Alana. Welcome to my channel. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And give this video a like. Up the Nobel Prize narrative hole in the Big Bang Theory finale was just made worse by Sheldon's new Young Sheldon story. After excluding East Texas Tech from his grant database project, Sheldon's efforts to get it off the ground are continued in TV's top comedy. He looks for investors on his own, but due to his advanced age, no one would consider him serious. As a result, he turned to Dr. Sturgis for assistance, who provided sincere encouragement. After being apart for several seasons, it's wonderful to see Sheldon and his original tutor working together once more. This, however, highlights young Sheldon's long-standing plot hole in the Big Bang Theory conclusion about Sheldon winning the Nobel Prize. During the dramatic conclusion of the Big Bang Theory, Sheldon and Amy's super-asymmetry article won the Nobel Prize in physics after a few obstacles. Receiving the honor was Sheldon's lifelong desire, thus it was a significant moment. The socially awkward genius remembered to thank the Coopers, but none of them showed up for the prize ceremony in Sweden. Additionally, he thanked the Pasadena gang, but it appears that he overlooked a crucial aspect of his scientific career: Dr. Sturgis, who initially introduced him to physics. Mary knew Doctor, so she let Sheldon start college early. East Texas Tech would be where Sturgis would be, but it also happened to be the same time that Dr. Sturgis moved to Waxahachie, Texas, for his ideal job. Since they had drifted apart and lost contact at that point, it appeared like their romance was over, which explains young Sheldon's narrative hole in the Big Bang Theory conclusion. But not only is Dr. Sturgis back at East Texas Tech, but as they collaborate on the grant database, he demonstrates that Sheldon will always come first. This makes it much worse when Sheldon doesn't thank him in the Big Bang Theory finale. Because of his biological age, Sheldon can still be ignorant despite his cerebral skill. This leaves him open to those like Dr. Linkletter and East Texas Tech President Hagemeyer, who don't really care about him and are only interested in using his brilliance for financial gain and publicity. Sheldon may have been so cautious and skeptical because of his expertise with this grant database project. It might even be the cause of the roommate agreement, the earliest plot in TBD. But it also restates the claim that Sheldon should have unquestionably mentioned Dr. Sturgis in his acceptance speech for the Nobel Prize. Despite living in the same world, CBS wasn't actively connecting the series, which is why Sheldon didn't thank Dr. Sturgis at the Big Bang Theory finale. Young Sheldon was just in its second season at the time, thus bringing up a character from the prequel who wasn't referenced or featured in the main sitcom could confuse viewers. Steve Molero, the showrunner of Young Sheldon, affirmed this, stating that their primary objective was to honor the history of Big Bang. It didn't seem appropriate to bring up particular Young Sheldon characters at this time. There isn't an in-universe explanation for this yet, but maybe Young Sheldon can think of something in the future. Young Sheldon makes Big Bang Theory finale's Nobel Prize plot hole worse. Here's why it matters. The world of the Big Bang Theory fans has always been one of intricate details and sharp observations, and while many people adored the final season's wrap-up, there's one issue that simply refuses to go away. We're talking about the infamous Nobel Prize plotline from the finale, which left fans scratching their heads. But it turns out that Young Sheldon has made the situation much worse. Here's how the spin-off series has opened up a Pandora's box of continuity errors, and why it might even be hurting the legacy of the original show. The Big Bang Theory finale, a Nobel Prize to remember episode of The Big Bang Theory. Sheldon Cooper and Amy Farrah Fowler are awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics for their groundbreaking work on superasymmetry. It's a momentous occasion for the show, marking the culmination of Sheldon's career and the realization of a dream he's had since the very beginning. The writers built up to this moment for years, with fans eagerly waiting to see how Sheldon would handle such an enormous achievement. However, for all the celebration, the episode is also rife with a glaring issue. The timeline of Sheldon's Nobel Prize win doesn't quite add up. For those of you who've been paying attention to the Big Bang Theory universe, there's one significant detail that just doesn't sit right. The Nobel Prize timeline doesn't make sense. In the Big Bang Theory finale, Sheldon and Amy receive the Nobel Prize for their work in physics, something that had been teased throughout the show as their crowning academic achievement. However, fans quickly pointed out that the timeline surrounding the Nobel Prize wasn't exactly clear. The show had established early on that Sheldon's work on supersymmetry had been recognized long before the final season, and his research should have been awarded the Nobel long before the events of the finale. This presents a pretty significant issue. How could Sheldon and Amy be getting a Nobel Prize so late in the game, when their research should have been recognized much sooner? While the show doesn't spend much time addressing this discrepancy, the issue is enough to raise some eyebrows. It's not just a minor mistake. It's an error that doesn't match up with everything we've learned about Sheldon's career throughout the show. Enter young Sheldon. The plot hole worsens. This is where Young Sheldon, the prequel series that dives into Sheldon Cooper's childhood, comes in. At first, Young Sheldon was intended to give fans a deeper look into the early years of Sheldon's life, explaining the roots of his eccentricities and providing more context for his later achievements. But instead of simply offering backstory, Young Sheldon has ended up complicating the very timeline that the Big Bang Theory tried to establish. In one of the more recent seasons of Young Sheldon, we see a young Sheldon grappling with early concepts of physics and theoretical research. His work on supersymmetry is even mentioned, and while it's fascinating to see Sheldon at a younger age making strides in his field, this creates even more confusion when it comes to his later Nobel Prize win. Young Sheldon has established that Sheldon's understanding of physics and his work on supersymmetry dates back much earlier than the Big Bang Theory finale suggests. If Sheldon was already on the cutting edge of theoretical physics during his childhood years, it raises serious questions about why it took so long for him to receive the Nobel Prize. The timeline issues that were present in the Big Bang Theory have now been exacerbated by the events in Young Sheldon, further muddying the waters of what should have been a moment of great achievement. How Young Sheldon makes the plot hole worse. Let's break down why Young Sheldon makes the Nobel Prize plot hole even worse. Overlapping timelines. Young Sheldon has placed Sheldon in the field of physics far earlier than the Big Bang Theory ever suggested. In Young Sheldon, he's shown making impressive strides in his understanding of theoretical concepts at a young age. If Sheldon had already achieved such significant progress in his childhood, why did it take so many years for him to receive the Nobel Prize? The timeline simply doesn't add up. The disparity between Sheldon's childhood genius and the delayed Nobel recognition feels more glaring with each new episode of Young Sheldon. Given Sheldon's early brilliance in Young Sheldon, one has to wonder why the Big Bang Theory didn't explore Sheldon's scientific career in more depth prior to the events of the finale. Sheldon's early years could have been a treasure trove of missed opportunities, especially if the writers had known that Sheldon was going to take so long to win the Nobel Prize. The fact that they never addressed this discrepancy in the Big Bang Theory leaves viewers frustrated, and Young Sheldon only makes this frustration worse. Lack of logical progression. As fans of the Big Bang Theory know, Sheldon Cooper is a character who thrives on logic and order. His rise to the Nobel Prize should have followed a logical progression in line with his academic career. However, the inconsistency between Sheldon's early genius in Young Sheldon and his later delays in receiving the Nobel Prize feels illogical and forced. The more we learn about Sheldon's childhood, the less sense it makes that he waited until his late 30s and possibly early 40s to receive such a prestigious honor. Contradictory backstories. Sheldon's journey to the Nobel Prize in the Big Bang Theory felt like the culmination of years of hard work. But with young Sheldon revealing just how early Sheldon's scientific breakthroughs occurred, the narrative begins to feel jarring. Why wasn't Sheldon recognized for his work earlier? Did his genius somehow go unnoticed for decades? The show never fully explains this, and as a result, young Sheldon has only compounded the issue, making Sheldon's Nobel Prize win feel more like a forced plot device than a natural conclusion to his character arc. Does it really matter? Now, you might be asking yourself, why does any of this matter? The truth is, for many fans, continuity and internal logic are crucial to enjoying a long-running show like The Big Bang Theory. While it's true that no show is perfect, the world of Sheldon Cooper and his friends is built on certain established rules. The inconsistencies between young Sheldon and The Big Bang Theory serve as a constant reminder that the timeline isn't as airtight as fans might have hoped. Ultimately, the problem isn't that Sheldon got a Nobel Prize, it's the way the timeline was handled, both in The Big Bang Theory and later in Young Sheldon. The inconsistency between these two shows makes the achievement feel less earned, and fans who followed Sheldon's journey for over a decade can't help but feel let down by the lack of cohesion. Conclusion: a missed opportunity for closure. As much as we love Sheldon Cooper and his journey from socially awkward genius to Nobel laureate, the timeline issues raised by young Sheldon and The Big Bang Theory are hard to ignore. If the two shows had synchronized their narratives a little more carefully, Sheldon's Nobel Prize victory could have felt like the satisfying conclusion that it was meant to be. Instead, we're left wondering why it took Sheldon so long to achieve something that seemed so inevitable from the start. In the end, young Sheldon might have been intended as a lighthearted prequel to The Big Bang Theory, but it's only made the latter's biggest plot hole worse, forcing fans to question the continuity of the beloved show. While Sheldon's journey is certainly memorable, it's hard to ignore the fact